Welcome back, bow hunters. This is Ron with Stay Sharp Guide. We're going to do a little bit of a different video in that it's mid-February of 2025 and turkey season is upon us, so we're going to be sharpening a bullhead from Magnus. This is 125 grain. And stay tuned to the end because we're doing a giveaway. We're going to start doing giveaways in our videos, so stay tuned to the end. This is a head that cannot be sharpened in any of our guides or anybody else's guide for that matter because the blades are so narrow. Here it says caution, razor sharp blades, and this is a new pack, so we will certainly put that to the test. They have a DVD in here, an extra set of blades, so we'll just grab one out and look at it. So as I said, these blades are so narrow that they cannot be grabbed by our guide or any other manufacturer's guide. There's just not enough to grab here and yet leave enough stick out to sharpen. But let's start with a brand new out of the package test here. They say caution, razor sharp. And if you're familiar with all of the many broadhead sharpening videos that I've done, you know I use this edge on up sharpness meter with the best certified copolymer filament that's in here. As I push down with the sharp blade trying to cut it, it records the grams of force that it takes until I finally sever through that copolymer filament. And then I've got a chart from them saying what is sharp. Now these do not feel razor sharp or I wouldn't be able to rub my finger on them, but let's test it nonetheless. Alright, so 610 is not razor sharp. Razor sharp is below 200, but that is our starting point, 610. So the other reason we're releasing this video now is the turkey season, and we're launching our newest broadhead sharpening guide, The Answer. And what it is the answer to blades like this that cannot be held through any other means. So you're left to freehand sharpen blades like this, and I hope you do a good job. But now with The Answer, we have a means of an angle controlled sharpening system. So you'll get the base with the broadhead wrench included. You will get the 4 grits of diamond, and you'll be able to buff 2, so 5 total grits, 4, 8, 12, 2000 grit. You get the broadhead holder, which is a piece of carbon shaft with an insert in it, and you'll get buffing compound. This holder will come to you without the rod in place, so I will take it out. The rod will be loose. Your task will be to slide it in past the screw hole and then tighten it up. Finger tightening is fine, or just the slightest snug just to keep that rod from falling out. So let's look at sharpening the bullhead using The Answer. We'll put the head on here. We will slide it in. Now The Answer has a key right here, and you will always align one blade with the key. Now these blades are offset from center, but still you want to have one blade lined up with the key, or at least parallel to it, which we are right about there. Now after looking at this head, it appears that I want to be about 1 5/8 out. That is our mark to hit, which is right there. So 1 5/8 inches to the insert. And again, I want to make sure I'm lined up with the key, or at least parallel to it. Alright, and now this one I'm going to screw down because it clamps that arrow shaft you'll see on the back side. We've got a living hinge in there so that it'll clamp it. So one blade is now aligned with the key. The next step would be to color up the blade with a Sharpie marker, because we want to establish that we're hitting the factory grind. If you want to be steeper than the factory grind, that's great. That's only a stronger edge. When I do my testing to see if I'm hitting the factory grind, I like to use 2000 or 1200 grit. The grit holder has 3 dots. Always have that up. That is the direction in which you will insert your diamond plates. Now the diamond plate is held in place, can't fall out. And what I've learned is that not only do we want to be 1 5/8 inches from the collar to the end of the insert, we want to use this outermost hole. So we've got a series of holes. These 3 and these 3 would be used to sharpen each side of this blade. If I were using a 4-blade broadhead, then these would be used for the blade that aligns with this slot. These 3 up here would align with this slot. So right now it's a 3-blade head, so after you get one blade done, you simply loosen the screw, rotate and index the next blade to line up with the key and resharpen it. So let's look at our wear. Again, we're in the furthest, outermost hole. And this is how I'm going to hold it for sharpening. I am going to move the broadhead past the diamond hone. If I wanted to, I could move the diamond hone past the broadhead blade. It's entirely up to you what you feel more comfortable with. I just happen to like to move the blade over the stone. And here again, all we're doing is we're trying to establish, do we have a good position with that 1 5/8 inches exposure and the 3rd hole out. And it looks like we do. We could actually go in. Actually, we could go out just a little bit more if we'd like to match the factory grind. I was being a little bit steeper. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit steeper. So now let's set it to 1 3/4. Align with the key. Tighten the screw. Again in the outermost hole. And let's do that again. Alright, and that's looking better as far as hitting the factory grind. Now you'll notice when I sharpen this blade, because of that exposure, I get to use slightly more than half of the grit as I go through my stroke and I come back. As you start using it, you have the ability to take this diamond plate, turn it around, and now you've got unused portions of diamond to sharpen about. But this will give you angle controlled sharpening and very repeatable results use after use. And this head needs to be sharpened. I've always wondered about turkey heads because I don't use this style of head. I would assume you'd want them to be very sharp to cut the turkey's head off, but maybe with enough weight and blunt force trauma it'll do the job anyway. But I always err on the side of being sharp. Again, we put it in with the side with the dots and we push it down, and then the diamond is held in place. So we're going to start with 400 grit because we've got some material to remove to get our first burr. And 400 is a pretty coarse grit. That is our biggest material removal grit that we have with this set. I'm going to start with this is a brand new set of diamonds, so there's always a high diamond on here that ends up getting knocked off. And we'll keep sharpening on this side until we get a noticeable burr. So I'm going to keep going on this, but I'm going to speed up the footage to save the length of the video. Alright, I'm going to check now for a burr, and if you've watched any of my videos, you know I always like to use a narrow piece of paper like Post-it note. I lay it on the opposite side to what I've been sharpening, and I slide it to see if I've achieved a burr. Now that paper flexes, it does not hop off. See that? So that popping sound, it doesn't just slide off the edge unobstructed, it flexes. So that's telling me that I have a burr on this side. When I sharpen this side, the burr appears on the opposite side. Now that I've got one burr on the bottom side, using this hole, I'm going to go up to the top side and sharpen this same blade, but now I'm sharpening it on the other side. So the orientation is the same. I'm simply going to slide it in the guide and keep sharpening. So rather than have you watch me do all of this grit over and over, I'm going to do 400, 800, 1200, 2000, and then I'll come back. It makes the videos a little bit shorter for you to watch, so stay tuned. I'll be right back. I know I said I would come back when I reached 2000 grit, but as soon as I started sharpening this other side of the blade, I came to a realization. These blades are offset. So this blade is quite a bit below the key, right? So each side of the blade is in a different orientation, and I found that I was having to take off too much to match the factory grind, so I ended up moving it to 1 7/16, and that actually worked out to be better. So just under 1/16 under an inch and a half, 1 7/16. It's a slightly steeper and stronger edge. That's fine. So it's slightly steeper. But I've achieved a burr at 400 grit on this side. I'm going to come back and I'm going to break off that 400 grit burr. Again, I'm in this hole on this side. So now that I've achieved 2 burrs at 400 grit, I'm going to be switching to 800 grit, and again, see the 3 holes, slide it in from that side. Now I'm going to do 8, 12, 2000, and then we'll come back and talk about final burr breaking and buffing. So I'm at 2000 grit right now, and I've achieved a burr on both sides, but when it comes to your final grit, you want to do a lot of burr breaking to to make sure you've got no burr on that blade. So I will break off the burr on one side, and in doing so I'm creating a burr. Then I will break off the burr on the other side, and I'll repeat that back and forth. And as I said in the last segment, I'm glad I switched to 1 7/16 arrow shaft exposure. That turned out to be the better angle. I wasn't having to remove as much metal. I was getting a slightly steeper angle, and we're still going to produce one heck of a great edge, and we'll get there a little bit faster simply because we're slightly steeper. Now, as you see, I am moving the diamond across the blade. Now we'll break the burr off, and here you'll see me moving the blade across the diamond. You will develop a method that you like best. So I'm already sensing that that's going to be a very sharp edge. The final step, if you've watched my videos, you know I love a buffed edge. And a buffed edge is a sharper edge. I've proven that over and over in all my videos. Here I'm just going to use a wooden stick, and I'm going to push plain old tweezer tape, but you could also use blue painter's tape. And you can see as I'm pushing it in, it's getting darker. That's me making contact with every bit of the plate to make sure that the tape is flat and smooth and on the 2000 grit plate. Only do this to the 2000 grit plate for buffing, but there's another reason to press this tape into the plate, and I'll show you that right now. This is how you clean your plates. So every grit will benefit from this, but look what I'm peeling up. Right, so that's everything that I was taking off the blade while sharpening. So diamond plate cleaning is done with tape. Buffing the edge is also done with tape. I will remove this little excess here since I don't need it. Now your kit will come with buffing compound. Only put the buffing compound on tape. Do not put buffing compound on your diamond plates. If you do that, you will destroy your plate. Brush off the excess. Now I used a wooden dowel to press the tape in. You could use the back of a screwdriver. You could use a Sharpie marker. You could use your fingernail, whatever it takes to push that adhesive deeply in to the diamond grit. All right, so we are working on the blade that aligns with the key. We're in the lowest hole, and buffing is always and only a backward stroke. Go backward, lift, go backward, lift. If you try to go forward, you will scrape the buffing compound off of the tape. You might even cut the tape. So always buff in a backward only stroke. Now this is a step that cannot be overdone. You can do this as much as you want, and I'm just showing you how I'm doing it, and you can see it's turning black. That's the blade material coming off. I'm going to flip it over, again index into this hole, and again a pulling stroke only. Now you're creating a very micro buffing burr, so we will buff one side, buff the other, buff one side, buff the other, and we'll keep doing that as much as you like. You can't overdo it. You're really smoothing out that edge. If you looked at the edge, the actual cutting edge under a microscope, it looks like a woodworker's handheld saw. It's very rough, but as you buff, you smooth that out. Now I'm going to flip it again. Go back into this bottommost hole. And again, only pull away. So now you've got this, with the answer guide, you've got this guided, angle-controlled edge that you're able to replicate and reproduce from blade to blade to blade. And since I don't use these types of turkey heads, I don't know what the survivability is. Are you guys actually able to reuse these blades? Let me know in the comments. Or is this one and done? You shoot the turkey and the blade snaps off, or you shoot the turkey, it hits the ground, then the blades snap off. Or are the blades actually going to be on there permanently? Now, I'm going to clean this up, and we're going to look at this edge. The buffing compound leaves kind of a glossy, cloudy coating on the blade, so we want to make sure we get all that off. And let's look at what sort of an edge we are producing here. Alright, so that's nice. Let's flip it over. That is a very nice looking edge. That is a very sharp edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buff a whole lot more. I like buffing. I'll probably spend 5 minutes buffing rather than making the video really long. I will buff, and then we will come back and test it on the Edge On Up Best Certified Sharpness Meter and see what our efforts got us. So stay tuned. Now I've been buffing on it for a while, and I've been finishing up here with our alternating strokes. Just a few strokes on one side, and immediately go over to the other side, chase that buffing burr away, because I've learned over the many years I've been doing this that any burr left behind will show up in the microscope and will show up in the sharpness meter. So get rid of it. It's going to impact your sharpness in the animal. Alright, let's clean that blade off and not cut ourselves on a YouTube video. And we will look at the sort of edge that we got here. A buffed edge always is an impressive edge. There's my window behind me. But pretty is one thing. Let's see how it tests out. And we will press this straight down like it's traveling through Mr. Turkey's neck and see what we get. .125. That is a great score. So now we truly are razor sharp. So you'll definitely need to use caution on this when you are handling them or using them or putting them in your quiver. So now I'm going to take the arrow shaft and I can then spin it, right, and index the next blade or the next blade with that key. And in this case, remember we said we wanted to have it stick out 1 7/16, just 1/16 under a ½ inch. Tighten it down, sharpen the next blade. Flip it, tighten it down, sharpen the next blade. So on 3 blade heads, you have to keep indexing it so you have the ability to mark the shaft with a Sharpie, and I like a silver or a gold Sharpie. If you don't want to use Sharpie, you can put a piece of tape around the shaft so that you don't screw up your index depth each time. So Sharpie marker or tape, and then all you have to do is keep it at that depth and index it, index it, index it for each blade as you go. That's sharpening the Magnus Bullhead with the new The Answer guide from Stay Sharp. Let's talk about our giveaway. So we're going to be doing more of these sorts of giveaways. So if you're interested in that, make sure to like and subscribe and comment in these videos. One lucky viewer who comments and likes this video is going to get this pack, including the one that I sharpened the 1 blade of. And I'm only going to sharpen 1 so you can see for yourself what the difference is between factory and what I did. So you get the 3 broadheads, the replacement blade set, the DVD. All you have to do is like and comment in the video, and I will draw a name from that when we do our Rage Hypodermic NC, and we will give this pack away to 1 lucky viewer who likes and subscribes, and then we'll do this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and many, many more. So if you want to get in on these drawings, once I get done sharpening a head, these heads are of no value to me, so I can give them away to the folks who like, subscribe, and comment in the videos. So there you go, Magnus Bullhead 125 grain sharpened on The Answer from Stay Sharp. Thanks for watching.